you do not know struggle until you have to put a cannula in a newborn baby. And then he randomly calls me at 1. He's like, the patient is on the table, I'm waiting for you, are you coming? I was like, the patient is on the table, what does that have to do with me? Like, that is your job. So imagine how you're going to feel when you come as a doctor with a whole degree and you don't even know how to take blood. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Natalie Caitlin and my channel name is TheStylishMed. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you're new here, please do subscribe to my channel and join the family. We're well on our way to 20,000 subscribers and I'm so excited because obviously that's something that I never imagined happening, especially so quickly. And so yeah, please do subscribe to my channel and join the family. If you're not new here, thank you so much for coming back again. So in today's video, I am finally going to be talking about my internship experience. Now, a lot of you know that the past year, basically from May 2019 to like now, well not now, but like till around May 2020, I was doing my final year, which in China is an internship here. And a lot of you had questions like, how's the experience? How did I get there? How did I apply? What did I do as an intern? And so forth and so forth and so forth. So I thought I'd come today and do a video where I just talk about everything, like what it was, what I did, and how it was for me. So how I'm going to do this is I'm basically going to go through like different aspects of it. I want to explain what it is and why we have to do it, what my uni requirements were, and then my experience, why I did it, where I did it, why I didn't do it in China, and my experience in the important departments and basically just like that. So when you study medicine in China, you essentially do 5 years of like strict school and then 1 year of solid hospital rotations, and that is what we call the internship here. If you haven't watched my other videos where I talked about studying medicine in China, what it's like studying medicine in China, what you need to know before studying medicine in China, everything studying medicine in China, you can watch those videos. I will leave them on the screen so you guys can go and check them out, and I will leave them in the description box below as well. So my uni requires us to do the usual 5 years of school and then the 1 year of internship, and luckily for us, our 1 year internship, you're actually allowed to do it outside China. You don't have to do it in China. So they do have like a bunch of requirements before you like go. You don't just like wake up and choose to go to any random country or any random hospital and do it there. They actually have a specific set of requirements and things that the hospital you're going to do it have to meet. So for example, the hospital has to have 500 beds, it has to have all these different departments like internal medicine, surgery, peds, obs and gynae, emergency medicine, radiology, ophthalmology, ENT, stomatology, dermatology, and I've forgotten a few ologies. But essentially, yeah, those were the requirements, and it had to be a teaching hospital or a hospital affiliated to a medical school in that country. And so if your hospital that or your country that you want to go to meets those requirements, then you were free to go. And if not, then you had to stay in China and do it there. And in China, they had a bunch of requirements as well for the hospital that you choose to do it in China. You can't just wake up and say, I'm going to Shanghai, I'm doing it there. The hospital also had to have its requirements. The hospital had to meet the school's requirements. I'm not sure how this is for other universities. I don't want to speak about things that I don't know. You guys already know I don't speak about things that I do not know. So I will only tell you guys my experience and my university. So another question that I frequently get asked is why I didn't do my internship in China. Why did I leave China? Why I did my internship outside China? So for me, the main thing was, and I think this stems from the fact that people know that my Chinese is quite good and that I had really high HSK scores. But I was looking at it from a point where when I'm in the hospital, when I was in the hospital in China, even though I had really good Chinese, I could speak with the patients and, you know, do all these things, I still felt like I wasn't getting the most that I could get. I feel like I actually have the capacity to speak on this because I'm that person that during the weekends, during the holidays, whenever I had free time, I would be in the hospital. I would ask my teachers, my lashes, the doctors that were teaching us if I could go and rotate with them and run with them and do surgeries with them and do all this kind of good stuff. And so during my holidays, you find that I'm actually in the hospital and I'm essentially being an intern with the final year's that were there at the time. So a lot of the times that I would be seeing what the final years, the interns were doing, that were doing it in China, and I would be with them, and it's like we're essentially at the same level. We're both not getting you know, that ultimate experience, because as much as it's not just about speaking Chinese, it's not just about being able to communicate with patients. I feel like you have to do the job that an intern does. Like here, when you get to work, you have to see that your patients' orders have been carried out. You have to order your patients' bloods and all that kind of stuff. You have to order them, you have to prescribe their meds, you have to do all these things, you have to carry out the doctor's instructions. Now, if you're there and you're doing it in Chinese, number one, all these things are happening are done in Chinese. There's no amount of HSK that will prepare you for the amount of medical Chinese you need to know to be as competent as the Chinese students in the hospital. There's no amount of HSK that can prepare you for that. It's not a thing, it's not there. And so you have to really put in that extra work. You have to spend time studying, like just looking, just, you know, just something simple like presenting a patient's medical record, like presenting a patient's history. All that is in Chinese, and out of all that, like 100% Chinese, you're probably only going to grasp 50%, or if you're really good, 60% of all that medical Chinese jargon. And so that already is limiting you, because you don't know everything that's going on with the patient. And also, if the doctor tells you go and order this, you don't even know how to do it because the system is in Chinese and you don't know how to use it. When it comes to doing like certain things, some of the patients might not even want you to touch them, and it's just like a lot of things. And I just felt like, because my goal wasn't to work in China, I felt like it made more sense for me to go and work back home, or the closest I could get to back home. And for me, that was Botswana, because I couldn't do my internship in South Africa, and I couldn't do my internship in Zimbabwe. So Botswana was the next best thing for me, and so I came here and I did that. At the beginning of my internship, like when I was done with 5th year and when I left China, I felt like, I don't want to lie, I didn't feel like I was competent as a student, as a doctor, as anything medical. I didn't feel like I had the confidence, you know, to actually like diagnose a patient and give differentials, like, you know, stand firm with my diagnosis and even prescribe medicines. I definitely didn't have the practical skills that I needed to have. I had the practical skills that we had been taught. Yes, like I was top of my class and all that good stuff, but I still felt like that wasn't enough compared to what people outside China were doing, compared to what people back home were doing. It's not a secret that in other countries, people like from 2nd year, 3rd year, they're in the hospital, they're taking blood, they're learning how to do lumbar punctures, they're doing assisted taps, they're doing all the stuff that you only essentially end up doing on a dummy, or if you're lucky, you'll do it once or twice, or a few more times than that if you're even luckier, and all that stuff. And the reason, and it's not even like I'm blaming anyone or anything like that, I'm just saying like it is what it is. Doctors in China don't take blood. That's not their job. So obviously we never learned how to do that. Whereas when you come here, that is your job. So imagine how you're going to feel when you come as a doctor with a whole degree and you don't even know how to take blood. So it's things like that that led me to say, no, I need to go and like bridge the gap between what I learned in China and what's being taught back home, and, you know, cement it all together so that by the end, when I have my degree, I know like I'm competent and I have the confidence that I need to actually be a good doctor. And so when I went, that is how I felt, and when I left, I was competent, I was doing really well. All the doctors that I learned, that taught me, were very proud of me when I finished in each department. They trusted me to see patients by myself. I was prescribing medicines. I felt confident, and I feel like the most people tend to not like, don't underestimate how important confidence is as a doctor, guys. You are literally, you have someone's life in your hands. If you don't have the confidence to treat that life well, you're not going to do anything with that patient. You're not going to help that patient at all. So you really need to have the confidence. And for me, that was the main thing. I needed, you know, to be put in the deep end so I can swim, because Lord knows in China we're babied, you guys. It's not even funny. Like they coddle us basically, and they treat us like, you know, with like a glass object. They don't really like throw us in there and throw us into the deep end and, you know, make us sink or swim and so forth, the way they do in other countries. And so my rotations, essentially what I had to do was internal medicine, surgery, peds, obs and gynae. Let me actually just look at this. So we had a logbook which essentially has all the rotations that you're supposed to do. And so we had to do 12 weeks of medicine, 12 weeks of surgery, 6 weeks of gynae, 6 weeks of peds, 2 weeks of ophthalmology, 2 weeks of ENT, 2 weeks of dermatology, 2 weeks of infectious diseases, 2 weeks of emergency medicine, and 2 weeks of radiology. Obviously, some of these things, you do them like in another department. For example, dermatology and infectious diseases were actually part of the internal medicine department, so I ended up doing more weeks in internal medicine. And then I finished really early, so I actually had time to keep going to the hospital, so I actually ended up lengthening my stay in obs and gynae. And also when corona happened, a lot of things got shifted around and messed around and tossed around and just screwed up, and I ended up staying even longer than I was supposed to. I feel like it was really cool that we got to be interns at a time that we were during a pandemic, you know, like it sucks that it came and it ruined things for us, but I feel like it actually added to my experience, it added to my, you know, just like experience as a doctor, that feeling of, okay, I was on the front lines, because we were literally on the front lines. Whereas if I had just been like in third year or fourth year or second year or whatever in med school, it's like, yeah, you're in med school during a pandemic, but it didn't really affect you. All you had to do was do your classes online, whereas you were actually treating patients, you know, wearing PPEs, not wearing PPEs sometimes, and you know, all that good stuff. And so that's essentially how the rotations were set up. And then in each department, basically, as an intern, we were expected to, number one, admit all the patients. Like the residents and the specialists, they don't really admit patients. Maybe once in a while or under like some special circumstance or occasion, they'll admit a patient, but admitting patients is an intern's job. So when you admit a patient, you have to take the patient's history, come up with your differentials and your diagnosis, and then create a treatment plan for that patient. If you have come from China, this is going to be a mission, but eventually you get used to it. Like, and I think the reason that it's difficult, it's a challenge for us, is because we essentially just learn, like we learn topics in medicine, but we don't learn like how to handle one patient with all this history and all this. Like you learn your different topics, but you don't actually get to put those things to practice. Obviously, if you spend more time in the hospital, you will, but yeah. So you're responsible for admitting, creating differentials, diagnosis, prescribing the treatment plan, and following up that treatment plan, essentially ordering tests and all that good stuff. And then that's when you're on call. And then during the day, when you're around with the doctors, you see the patients, you adjust any treatment plans, you change medicines if necessary, change treatment plans if necessary, order more differentials, order more tests and scans and investigations, take bloods, do procedures like acupuncture, set of tabs, evacuations. If you're in surgery, you go to theater, you do surgeries. If you're in labor ward, you deliver babies, you do all kinds of things. And so I will also go in like depth, like one by one, like department by department. I tell you what I did there and what was exciting for me, what wasn't exciting for me in that department. I feel like this video was going to be so long, but you guys have to bear with me because you asked and I'm answering. So yeah. I remember on my first day of internship, I actually went, it was a Monday, it was the 3rd of June. My plan wasn't actually to start that day. My plan was, okay, this day I'm gonna go, I'm gonna introduce myself to the admin people, and they're gonna show me around, they're gonna tell me where what is and you know what's expected of us. I'm gonna get familiar with the wards, the hospital, you know, just walk around, have a look. And that is not, guys, that is not what happened on my first day of internship. We got to the hospital, the lady was like, all right, you're on time, let's go, let me introduce you to Dr. So-and-so. He's the one who's going to be, because I wanted to, and then she asked us which departments we wanted to start in. So I wanted to start with internal medicine and then peds and then surgery and then gynae, but I actually ended up doing internal medicine, surgery and then peds and then gynae and then the other smaller ones in between that. So I was like, yeah, I want to start in internal medicine. She was like, oh great, let's go, it's still morning meeting time, let's go to the morning meeting, I'll introduce you to the department. So we went and she just left us there, and the head of department, actually the deputy head of department, is the one who took us under his wing, and he was like, great, welcome. And there were 2 Chinese doctors working there. Yeah, there were 2 Chinese doctors in internal medicine, and he was like, since you guys are from China, one of you go there, one of you go there. Those are teams that you're working on for now, and then next week you get to switch, or every 2 weeks you get to switch, or however often you want to switch, you can switch. So there I was at the morning meeting thinking, okay, after this, fine, I'll go and I'll have a look around the hospital. After the morning meeting, we had a grand round. Guys, like I remember like we're standing there. Grand round is essentially where the interns that were on call, they present the cases that they admitted, and then it's like fire questions, like question. What is this? Why did you do this? Why don't you do this? Do you think that your diagnosis is correct? Why do you think your diagnosis is correct? And let me tell you, if you don't have confidence in yourself and your diagnosis, you're just going to fumble there, you're just going to crumble and cry, and it's just not going to be pretty. And so they're there, they're being grilled, and I'm just standing in the back. And then the doctor, the deputy head of the department, he's like, you student, come to the front, come and tell me this, come and tell me that, come and tell me this, come and tell me that. But luckily, I don't know, like, thank God that day, like, he was asking me things that I knew. And then he's like, look at this patient. What's the difference? Is this ecmosis? Is this petechia? Is it petechia? Is it pepper? What is it? And so I answered correctly, thank God. And then he kept asking me questions and I kept answering. And so that grand round went well. And that was one of the only grand rounds that went well for like the first month or so. And then the other grand rounds, oh guys, like it gets really tense. Even the residents, sometimes they don't know, and everyone is just blinking, looking at each other, and it's just a mess. So anyway, then after the grand round, then the doctor, I was put under one of the Chinese doctors, he's a specialist. He was like, okay, let's go and start a round. So normally on a team in internal medicine, there's a specialist or two, and then like one of the residents or the medical officers, and then an intern, and then a student if there's a student. So on my team, there was no medical officer, there was no resident, there was no intern, it was me and the specialist. Oh my God, guys. So we're rounding, and we're seeing patients, and I'm like, okay, this is fun, this is exciting. And the doctor is saying, okay, for this patient, we're gonna do bloods, we're gonna do FBC, UE, LFT, RFT, and you can also add a coag profile. For this one, we're gonna do lumbar puncture, acidic tap. For this one, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do this. For this one, we need to do a whole STD work, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this. And I'm like, okay, cool, you know, I'm like, all right, that's fine, that's cool. And then he looks at me, he's like, you're not writing this down. And I'm like, why am I writing anything down? Like, you know, we're together, I'm following. And then he's like, okay. And then we continue. And then like when we see the last patient, he's like, so do you remember what you need to do for everyone? I was like, what do you mean? What I need to do? And he's like, all the things I was saying, we need to order, we need to do, you're the one who's going to do them, and you need to know each patient. So he's like, grab a paper, grab a pen, and then he gives me paper and I had a pen. And then so he starts writing for patient in A1, FBCU, LFT, patient in A2, ultrasound scan, CT scan, X-ray, lumbar puncture. This one, acidic tap, NG tube, what. This one, you have to do TB sputum. Like, listen, like it was just crazy. I remember on my first day, I had 7 bloods in NG tube, and lumbar puncture, and acidic tap. Guys, when I say I don't know how to do anything, I don't know how to do anything on that list. 7 bloods in NG tube, and acidic tap, and a lumbar puncture. I was there by myself. I feel like I should do a whole story time up on my first day of internship, like a totally different video, because this is just like a summary. But eventually, yeah, we finished rounds and he's like, go and start your work. So there I am with my list that has 7 bloods and NG tube, and not 7 bloods, like 7 times, but like 7 patients need FBC, UE, and LFT. So that's 3 bottles of blood for 7 patients. That's 21 tubes of blood that have to be collected, and I have never collected blood in my life. And so I obviously go to the other teams and I'm like, guys, I'm new, I'm a student, I don't know, what am I supposed to do? And they're like, oh, us, we have our own ward work to do. And that is how it is in the hospital. People are busy focusing on their ward work. If you don't know what you're doing, you're on your own. You'll be very lucky if you find someone who wants to help you. And luckily there was a girl, shout out to her, Dr. Uriel. She was like, okay, I'm gonna teach you how to take blood, you can practice on me. And so that is how I practiced, and then that was it. I had to go. And then, but the lumbar puncture, the acidic tap, the NG tube, yo guys, I don't wanna lie, I just left it, I put it on the board, and I was like, the intern coming on call is going to have to do this, because me, ooh, it's not going to be my problem. And so then eventually I learned how to do cannulas, how to, you know, take blood, how to do the lumbar punctures, acidic taps, until at some point I was the one, like, you know, I was the person who did acidic taps, or the person who did lumbar punctures. People knew, like, if there's an acidic tap, the lumbar puncture in the ward is for me. And, you know, that's how you go, that's how you learn. And so I feel like if if you have that like zeal to learn, that drive to learn, you'll be fine. Eventually you'll learn everything. Even if you come not knowing anything, you'll leave knowing something, as long as you want to learn. I was like, my first week was, I don't want to lie, it was really hard. I didn't know how to do anything, and I felt really stupid. I felt like, wow, I wasted 5 years of life. Am I even gonna be a good doctor? But like, honestly, you guys just don't give up. If you feel like that's you, it's fine. I'm sitting here now. I'm the person that they used to call for stuff, and it was really cool. Eventually you get to know what you're doing. And so that was internal medicine. Internal medicine was basically just seeing patients. There was a lot of collecting blood, a lot of cannulas, a lot of lumbar punctures, a lot of acidic taps, some pleural taps. I even got to do a bone marrow aspiration once. And then that was that. And then surgery department was, I feel like I really enjoyed surgery department, and that's mostly because I worked on teams that were really eager to teach. And there were a lot of Chinese surgeons, specialists in the surgery department, and so a lot of them were eager and like willing to teach me because I was from China, and they miss home, and so having someone who's coming from their home, it was just like so there was a Dr. Han. He was a cardiothoracic surgeon. He was the best doctor I ever met in that hospital. He was so kind, really good teacher. He let me do chest drains by myself. I wasn't as guys, like, I came not knowing how to take blood, and I left knowing how to insert chest drains by myself. I was doing surgeries with him. I remember the first day on his team, he was like, oh, okay, great, here's my number, give me your number. We have surgery today at 1 p.m. so I'll see you then, but before that we have to do runs. So we did runs, and then he gave me like all his ward work to do. So I'm there in the ward doing his ward work. I'm doing chest drains, I'm doing all this kind of stuff, seeing his patients. And then he goes off, and then he randomly calls me at 1. He's like, the patient is on the table, I'm waiting for you, are you coming? I was like, the patient is on the table, what does that have to do with me? Like, he's like, hurry up, the surgery, I need to start surgery, I'm about to start it. And I'm just like, I go, and I had never even been to theater, so I finally go to theater, and I don't know what to do. I don't know like where everything is. Then I get shown to theater. I think it was theater 2 that we did the surgery in. And then he finishes. I don't remember what we were doing. We did so many surgeries, I don't remember what the first one was, but yeah, eventually we finished, and then he was like, okay, close. So he let me close, guys, like everything. Like, he finished, and then I closed everything, like the ribs, the skin. It was amazing. And one thing I don't like is the fact that like the theater staff, they're like waiting like this, because obviously you're slow, you're a lot slower than the specialists and the real surgeons, so you got to take time to close, and they just want to be out of there, and you're wasting their time. But don't let that get to you. Just do your thing and learn. And also in surgery, we used to do minor ops. So every Wednesday it was minor op day, like removing lumps and bumps and all that fun stuff. And that was for us. That was like for the interns to do, and that was really fun. So you're basically just doing like surgery by yourself. Obviously the specialists and the residents, they're there to come and like oversee what's going on. If there's a lot of patients, they'll come and help, or if we're taking too long, they'll come and help. But that was really fun. So you really get to practice your suturing and all that stuff there. But in surgery, I didn't really struggle, because I feel like surgery is one of the actually things that in my school that were taught really, really well, and we practiced suturing and all that, so I didn't really struggle. Internal medicine, yeah, I definitely struggled, and also that was my first department. But because 3 months had even gone by when I was not in surgery, I was obviously like competent. I could admit patients, I could do all these things. And then after that was peds. Whew, guys, I feel like you guys want to get tired of hearing me say that I hate peds. I don't enjoy pediatrics. I don't like that department. I don't like anything about it. And the fact that you have to cannulate a baby, guys, you do not know struggle until you have to put a cannula in a newborn baby. Peds is a department from hell, I tell you guys. Peds is not for the faint-hearted. Peds is not for the weak. It is barely even for the strong. So peds, I don't want to lie, peds, my 6 weeks rotation, I didn't even like, I wasn't even trying to extend, because in every other department I stayed longer than I was supposed to have. But in peds, ooh, guys, 6 weeks finished, and I was out of there. I was out, I was gone. Every day consisted of obviously morning meeting, presenting the cases that were admitted overnight, and then ward rounds. And so you either go to SCABU, which is the intensive care unit for newborns and neonates and all that, and then there's the pediatric wards, which is for the older children. And so you either in one of those two. I think I actually might have preferred, I don't even know, like SCABU peds wards, it's the same to me. I hate them both. The cannulas are difficult in a baby, they're difficult in a 5-year-old, they're difficult in a 2-year-old that's crying all over the place. Like, it's just, the older children, you'd think they're actually better, but they're so terrified, and because they know that needles are painful, they're even hysterical, and it's more difficult to get them to calm down than to actually cannulate. But the babies, at least they don't know what's going on, so you just hold them down and you put it in. If you fail, you put it in again. You fail, you do it 25 times until you finally get it in. And so yeah, and then doing lumbar punctures in babies. Oh my god, guys, peds, oh my goodness, guys, I hate peds. I don't want to lie. I can't wait till I'm done, like, with my proper internship, so I can be done with peds for good, because no one knows that is the one department I will never specialize in. So that was peds. I did lots and lots, and I think I probably did I did more gynae calls, but I did a lot of peds calls just so that I could have more post-call days, because if you're on call like 3 times in a week, you're gonna be at work probably 3 times in a week as well. So I used to do a lot of calls in peds so that I would not have to be there during the day. And so yeah. Oh, and by the way, I didn't explain what a call is. So a call is when you are basically at hospital when everyone else isn't. So you can either be on call overnight from 4:30 to 7:30 in the morning. From 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 in the morning, you're on call. You're the one responsible for everything that's going on in that ward. Or you can be on call 24 hours on the weekend from 7:30 to 7:30, from 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. the next day. And so that's basically the 2 types of calls that we had. So holidays and weekends are 24-hour calls, and then night calls are from 4:30 to 7:30. Peds was short and sweet. I wasn't even trying to extend that, and then I moved on to gynae. Gynae was my favorite rotation. I feel like I enjoyed gynae because it has that combination of the surgical side, so you can do Caesars, you can do hysterectomies and all these other fun operations, and then there's also the medical side where you can actually like treat a patient, diagnose, prescribe medicine, whereas surgery is just surgical cases. Peds is just peds. Internal medicine is just internal medicine. There's no surgical side to it. Yes, here and there you get to do an anesthetic tap, you get to do a lumbar puncture, you get to do a claw tap, but in gynae you get to actually like use tools and like do fun stuff. And so I really enjoyed that. It was like a balance of like medicine and surgery together. And in obs and gynae is where I actually ended up spending a really long time. Like I extended it so much that I just I even felt like I was part of the department. I was there for a very long time. And so in gynae, what would happen in the morning meeting? Yeah, morning meeting, and they present the cases that were there, you discuss stuff, and then you go on to do ward rounds. You either go to the antenatal wards, the postnatal wards, the gynae wards, or the gynecology wards, or the labor ward. So antenatal is before delivery, postnatal is after delivery, labor ward is delivery, and then gynae is, you know, the gynecological cases, and then gynecology is your ovarian cancer, cervical cancer, yeah, that basically. So in gynae, we used to do evacuations, we used to do like if people had like abortions, you have to come and evacuate them and clean them, DNCs, all this good stuff. When I left, I stopped counting how many evacuations and carriages I'd done at 50. I counted to 30 twice, and then I stopped counting. And then I assisted in over 30 Caesars, and then I also got to do and then it was really fun. Deliveries, I don't know how many babies I delivered. It was just a fun department. I actually really enjoyed gynae, and I actually honestly wouldn't mind a specialty in gynae if I'm being completely honest. I wouldn't mind it because number one, you get to open your own practice, and you can, you know, have the medical side to it, the surgical side to it, but it's also not as intense as just surgery alone. So yeah, and things like radiology, ENT, dermatology, stomatology, ophthalmology, well, those were there, but yeah, they were there, and yeah, I did them, but I wasn't even trying to extend those as well. So what I used to do so that I can, like, you know, learn more and be competent, I used to do calls. Like, it's really important to just don't be like, oh, I'm a student, or oh, I don't have to do this, so I'm not going to do it. Like, you have to do it because you don't know and you've never done it, and so that is how you're going to learn. So I really advise you guys to do calls if you're doing your internship. Do as many as you can. Do weekend calls, night calls, all kinds of calls. And also study. Don't just think, okay, I'm done with my 5 years of school, I don't need to study again. Trust me, this is when you need to study, because there's no one forcing. You don't have exams, so you don't have to be like forced to read a certain thing. Read everything that you don't know. If it's ECG that you struggle with, study ECG and then go and do ECG for every patient in the ward when you're done. Like, go and learn. Like, that is how you learn. If you're struggling with lumbar puncture, go and find each patient that needs a lumbar puncture and be the one to do it. If you're struggling with something, go and find, like, everything that you're struggling with, you're going to find in the hospital. And sometimes the people are so nice and so willing to teach that if you go and ask them when they're free, they'll be willing to sit down with you and teach you. And that's really, I really appreciate that, especially internal medicine and ObGyn. The doctors, they were always willing to teach, and that was a really good experience for me. So I used to study in the morning. If you guys haven't already watched my 4 a.m. morning routine, I used to study at 4 in the morning before work, and then after work I'll come home and study again. And that is essentially how I did it. That's how I managed to go from knowing zero to being confident and competent. And as for hospital life in general, it's definitely like a total different ball game from what you used to in med school. When you're in med school, you go to the hospital, and as your class, you're left there and the bus leaves you. You see the patients, the doctor tells you what to do, you do it, and then the bus picks you up and you go back to school, and you're not really involved, not really like part of a team. When you're an intern, you are part of the team. People will blame you for things that are not even your problem. You will be the scapegoat. People will praise you when things are going well. When things are going bad, you are a total fool. Like, it's it's crazy. You're gonna meet doctors that are lazy, doctors that like throwing people under the bus, doctors that are really nice. You're gonna meet everything. You're gonna meet nurses that are really nice, nurses that will make your life difficult, theater staff that are really nice, theater staff that don't want you to do the surgery because, I don't know, they're feeling some type of way about you. There's gonna be all kinds of experiences, and I feel like that's a really good experience, because you're gonna mature, like in terms of just as a person, not in terms of like medical, but like as a person. You're going to learn how to deal with different situations that you never had the chance to deal with when you were a student, and so that's a really good experience to have. And if you're studying in China, you're not going to really get to know these things, because you're just going to be looked at. You're going to be an outsider essentially. But if you actually go back home and your internship there, you're going to feel like part of a team. You're going to feel like part of, you know, the hospital staff, and that's a really, really, really important thing that you need to experience before you graduate. Obviously, if you can. If you can't, it's, you know, it's not a big deal. You'll do it when you're done. I honestly really feel like I did have like an overall experience. Specialists hitting on you left, right, and center. Like, I feel like there's a time where I was being hit on by the specialists, the residents, the interns, the students, the guards, the nurses. Everyone was trying to hit on me. And you have to know how to handle yourself in these situations. You're gonna grow closer to people. Some people you might not necessarily appreciate them getting close to you. Some people you're gonna feel very close to, and then you're gonna realize, oh, maybe you shouldn't have gotten close to those people. The relationships in the hospital, like not necessarily like relationships, like friendships and like professional relationships, friendships, sexual relationships, you know. And yeah, so I feel like my biggest takeaway from this is you have to be willing to learn, because a lot of people do come from China, Russia, wherever. And so a lot of people will come feeling like, oh, I'm finished now, I'm a big shot now, you know, I don't have to learn, I don't have to do anything, and I know everything. And they come with their attitude, and they are so entitled, and they don't end up learning anything. And then there's people that come, they were lazy in China, they come and they continue being lazy here, and they don't learn anything. They make everything everyone else's problem. They don't take any responsibility, you know. And so you have to be willing to learn. Like, you have to be seeking chances, because it's a hospital. There's patients there. People are busy. That's their job. They're not there to baby you. They're not there to teach you. They're there to work. And so if you want to learn, you have to go and like put in that extra work and put in that, like, you know, that drive, and you have to be willing to put yourself in situations where you can learn. Like, I wouldn't have assisted in over 30 Caesars if I had been sitting waiting for someone to come and invite me for a Caesar. No one is going to invite you for a Caesar, but if you go and tell the doctors, like, every time you have Caesar, please call me, or I'm going to be waiting at theater, waiting at the delivery room. If there's a Caesar case, then I'm going to go for it. You know, you have to put yourself in the situation. And so I feel like the main differences between studying doing my internship here and having maybe not done it in China are, number one, you're definitely going to feel like part of a team. So you're going to feel what it's like to actually be part of a medical team. You're not going to be that student who's just there. You're going to be part of the team. Number two, you're going to have responsibility on you. It's not going to be, oh, you're a student, because even third-year students are having to do all these things in the hospital here. Whereas back in China, you can just get away with, I'm a student. They're like, oh, you're a student, okay, fine, you don't have to do this. But here it's like, okay, so you're a student, so what, come and do it. You know, that type of thing. You're gonna learn the ins and outs of medicine. You're gonna learn things from a perspective that you never got to learn it in China. You're gonna get to practice your practical skills, because even if you're an intern in China, you're not gonna do as much as you can do back home because the opportunities aren't as many. Yeah, and you're just basically gonna gain that confidence that you need, because you're gonna be tasked with seeing patients by yourself. Like, that patient is your patient from start to finish. From the time they get admitted, you're the one who admits the patient, and you're the one who discharges them. You're not going to discharge the patient if the patient hasn't healed. So that confidence that you gain from, I admitted this patient and now they're leaving because they're fine, because I treated them, it's going to really add to your confidence, and it's going to really, you know, make you feel like competent enough to be to have the title that you're working to have. Any regrets? No, I don't. Do I regret having left China? Not at all. If anything, I feel like I wish I had, you know, taking like holidays that come here instead of having done my holidays there. I learned so much, and also I was fortunate enough to have Chinese doctors here, so I got to learn from Chinese doctors in China, and I got to learn from Chinese doctors here back home, and they even taught me stuff that I never learned in China simply because I was here, and that they had never had to use there in China. And so yeah, I definitely gained a lot of confidence. I feel competent. I'm not scared at all to start working as a doctor. If anything, I'm excited and I'm ready. Whereas if I had done my final year in China, I know I would be like shit scared right now. But yeah, that's not the case with me. So if anyone is contemplating whether they should go back home or stay in China, number one, consider the fact that if you don't want to work in China in the future, then staying there for your internship is probably not a good idea. Try to do your internship where you plan on working, or close to where you plan on working. Consider the fact that you've already had 5 years experience in China. A year of experience somewhere else would do you good. You get to bridge the gap between what you learned there and what's being taught back there. And so yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed me rambling on. If you guys know me, then you guys know that this mouth, it likes to move. I like to talk. I talk too much, I get carried away. And so yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this video answered all the questions that you had about doing your internship in China or doing it somewhere else. Please, if you have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I will definitely get back to you. Leave a like, subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you in my next video.